Welcome to the Always On podcast. I'm your host, Duncan MacPherson. And on this podcast, our objective is to empower our audience, which are very high quality and caliber fee-for-service professionals, to always be working on their business and on themselves. On today's podcast, I had a really solid conversation with Frank LaRosa. Frank is the CEO of Elite Consulting Partners and the host of the Advisor Talk podcast. In this episode, we talked about what it looks like to make your next move, the next chapter in your life, as meaningful and measurably impactful as possible. We talked about a framework for how to prime and prepare any type of transition, whether it's scaling up or moving environments. We talked about what the execution looks like to get that right at launch time, including a little bit around messaging to clients. And then, of course, once the dust settles, how to maximize any transition that you make going forward. So I hope you like it. And if you do, please like and share and tell your colleagues. And as always, if you have any ideas for topics or themes down the road, just let us know. Thanks for listening. Well, I've got a special guest with me here today, Frank LaRosa. He's an advisor to advisors with Elite Consulting Partners. We've had many conversations, very good conversations about enterprise value, M&A, intellectual property, transitioning from one environment to the next. And this is just a perfect time for a conversation like this. Frank, thanks for being here.
I appreciate you having me on. I enjoyed our previous podcast, and I think there's I found a new best friend.
And it's not just because we have watches that are
That's
very
true.
similar. I knew I was going to like you, but give us a bit of your backstory. Like tell people what a typical day in the life is and what value you deliver to the financial services space so that they know what they've gotten themselves into here.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just go back. Not going to quite go back to my elementary years, but I've been doing this for 30 years. Started off as an intern at Prudential Securities and didn't really know anything about the space. My wife worked at Lehman Brothers back in the day. So sort of all I've ever known. She was like, you would be really good in financial services. I'm like, okay. So I went and sort of did that. Grew a nice little book of business, or I call it a pamphlet, right? Because it was a couple of years, it's only been a couple of years. I transitioned over to Smith Barney in 1989 and, did well and was good getting clients, but it wasn't rewarding to me as much as it was in helping an advisor sort of grow their practice, right? So an advisor within the organization grow their business. And so I just sort of advanced through Smith Barney and eventually Morgan Stanley. I started my our consulting firm, for all intents and purposes, a recruiting firm. We don't like to use that term because that's not what we do. I started our Elite Consulting Partners in 2011, and it's evolved over time as I sort of, we work with advisors, we help them move from firm A to firm B. But during that process, what really gets me going is this the ability to help them put themselves in a better position to succeed, right? Yes, there's money involved when they make a move, but what I really try to do with our clients is make the move worth much more than just the transition, right? So a typical question that I will ask a financial advisor, no matter what size practice they are at, is what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Why are you doing this, right? Aside from the money, what are the things you're trying to get out of this? Close your eyes, envision your business 10 years from now. What does it look like? If you're doing $1 million, do you want to be doing $10 million? Do you want to have an enterprise? Do you want to be doing $1.5 million, but work 3 hours a day? Like, okay, I don't judge. It's not for me to decide. My role is to help them find that solution, because what we do for a living, we feel is very rewarding. We help advisors change their lives in one form or another, right? We work with a lot of advisors on the W-2 channel. that we set them free, or we bring them to 1099, right? We bring them into the real world, as I call it, right? But a lot of those advisors are seeing a almost immediate near double in their income, right? So a near double in their income, yes, it's beneficial to their clients. Yes, it's beneficial to their staff, but they've just doubled their income to their family, to their children. Like, to me, that's very rewarding. But I also, at the same time, got frustrated because they were leaving so much opportunity on the table, right? I've made this my mission to, I love being a branch manager. I love being a leader. In 2010, I was one of the top 10 leaders in the industry, branch managers in the industry. So I love guiding and coaching advisors. And when you work with an advisor that's transitioning from one firm to another over a year or two or longer, you get to really know them. Some of my closest friends now are started off as clients of mine, right? Because I know their business as well as they know their business. And so I found that they were leaving some areas on the table that they weren't focusing on because they don't think big enough. And so I feel like I have this like calling to be like, I'm going to say branch manager, but not a manager, more of like a branch leader to the financial advisor space, right? Meaning paying it forward and giving people advice and guidance. If you follow me on Instagram or whatever, I talk about all of different random things that maybe have nothing to do with moving firms, right? Because if I can give an advisor who's listening a piece of advice on how to be a better leader in their organization or whatever, then I feel like I've done my job. And yeah, eventually if they want to make a move and they want to call me or whatever, they might do that, right? But it's for me, it's really about paying it forward and doing things. I think there's a gap and there's a void within our industry of personal development, thought leadership, like thought leadership, not on how to be a better investment manager, not that kind of thought leadership, but just general business entrepreneurship. I'm part of several different entrepreneur groups outside of the industry, right? And typically I go in there and they have no idea what I do because none of them are from the industry.
Right.
But I learned so much about being a business owner and an operator from businesses that have nothing to do with financial services. And I feel like we in the wealth management space, we're missing that. And so my goal, my passion is to help advisors whenever I can. Yes, we move them from firm A to firm B, but during that process, I try to give them advice and guidance. And that's why we started, over the last couple of years, you've rolled out a couple of different services that we were pulled into those services by our clients. So for instance, we have a marketing agency. Our marketing agency only works with financial advisors. We don't do social media and website design for gym owners, car dealerships, and electricians, right? We just do financial advisors. That's all we speak. Because I feel like in this day and age, advisors are not grasping the concept of how important branding and social media are to their business, to communicate with their clients, to communicate with prospects, to increase the value of their business, right? The third level of business, if you look over my shoulder here, this is all the stuff that's in my head. We have an M&A service called Elite Advisor Successions. And we purely focus on individual business owners, maybe some large enterprises, but individual 1099 business owners buying individual practices, right? So we're not institutional. We're not buying and selling, 100 advisor firms and stuff like that. We're helping individual advisors grow by acquiring other individual advisors, right? And part of increasing the value of your business, if you're selling, is to have a really good brand that a buyer wants to pay up for. To have the right types of clients, to have your system operating the way it should operate cleanly, right? To have a clean data, clean data database, to have systems and processes working so that a firm that takes over can just take the business over and it keeps going. And so we launched business earlier this year called Jedi Data Solutions, which helps advisors get their data in the right place, get it going in the right direction, and automate as much as possible. I think you talked about this. You do a lot of work in that area. I know you talked about, if there's anything that takes more than three steps, it should be automated.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. I think that advisors don't understand how important it is to understand their data and how well it's being processed, because they usually have a good assistant. The assistant's doing whatever they're doing. But if you can help automate those things, then you can grow your business much faster. And so my whole mindset is really empowering a financial advisor to make the right move, not just the next move. And that means that, like, I can work with a financial advisor even if they don't want to move firms. And we're the only firm in the entire industry in our world that can do that. And it's because I was a financial advisor. I was a branch manager. I understand there are very few advisor practices that I can't work with that I haven't seen before or managed before, right? So I generally can come in and give a different perspective on what they should be doing and how to grow their practice if they want to grow their practice, right? If they want to become, this, right? Most advisors at the beginning are practitioners. And then they have to decide, do they want to be a business owner or do they want to be a leader of an enterprise? Like, which one of those things do you want to be? And there's no right or wrong answer. I had a good friend of mine that was at a wirehouse firm, and we were exploring going to another wirehouse firm. He's sort of a serial mover, right? So every 9 years he makes a move. But he's a business owner. He's an entrepreneur at his core outside of the wealth management space. So outside of his business, he's got the entrepreneurial spirit, right? And I was like, you should go independent, and we should build you an enterprise business. You can do it, right? I ultimately realized that I had more belief in him doing it than he did. And he was in my office one day right over here, and he was sort of having a little bit of a panic attack, trying to figure out where he should put his office location, which to me as a business owner is one of the most fun things you can do, right? And I just looked at him and said, I'll just say his name was Bob, not Bob, but I just say, hey, Bob, you know what? You should just take the check. Meaning just take the check from the wirehouse firm, because you're not ready. You're not, for this space, you're not really an entrepreneur, right? And that's okay. You're a practitioner, and you're a really good one. And he does like $3 million a year, right, by himself with one assistant. So he's really good at it. But what I realized is that some advisors don't belong in the independent space, right? And that's okay. And so through our process, we really go through that stuff. And I really try to position our clients to be in the best place for them so they can really be happy and enjoy themselves and then accomplish whatever goals is that they're trying to get accomplished. And that's a long-winded answer, but that, if you want to know what I think about and what I do every single day, that's what we do every single day. I want to be talking to advisors. Yes, many times it's about moving firms, but a lot of times I'll be on a call with an advisor that's trying to build out their brand, and they're uncomfortable there. I'm trying to train them on, hey, get comfortable with picking up your cell phone and recording yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You just walked out of a client meeting and you've had that client for 15 years or 20 years, and they're finally going to be able to retire because you helped them with their financial plan for the last 15 years and you feel good about it. Right. And they're like, I'm like, does that happen? He goes, yeah, it happens all the time. Like, in that moment, you should pick up your cell phone and record what you're doing and why you're doing it and why that's important. Because that's how you're going to differentiate yourself from everybody else out there, by showing your personality, by showing them that you're passionate about helping your clients achieve their retirement goals. Right. And so it's just these little things that I try to find ways to impact a financial advisor every single day in some form or fashion.
Okay, well, there's a lot of alignment, as you know, and philosophical synergy there. Backing up, and you hit on a lot of points there, so I took some notes, and we'll break some of this down. But backing up to the beginning, I learned a long time ago from a mentor, and I try to relay this on to as many people as possible. This is one of the layers of what it means to be balanced in decision making, is to focus as much or even more on who you're becoming than what you're getting or how much you're earning. And I, like you, I will never trivialize the practical, economic, like that measurable impact, but there's meaningful aspects around self-actualization and your reason for being. And so, like you, I like to put a balance on the two. And it's interesting, we're both advisors to advisors. We lead teams. I love this visual of sort of being in a sidecar of a motorcycle. The advisor's driving, we're navigating, making sure that they're, on the right track, aware of blind spots, validating progression, and just holding them accountable. Because, to your point about sometimes we want it more than they do because we don't have any of the limiting beliefs that they might have imprinted into their psyche over the years. So It's a very fulfilling role. But let's talk a little bit about moving, because again, my mindset is I want your next move to be your last move. Okay, let's break the pattern. Let's get this right. And let's make sure the fit process puts you in an environment where you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Okay, so let's get the most of the good and the least of the bad. So I'll just give you my sort of framework, and I want to see how it compares to yours, and then look for how we can make it hand in glove. So our framework for strategic planning and something like this is 3 progressions. Prime the pump, which is preparation. Think it through, get it out of your head. Then execute, right? Launch, do it. And then maximize as a proof of concept after the dust settles, to ensure that you do in fact level up for yourself, and this was in the client's best interest. So with that framework, let's talk about yours, and let's provide some actionable ideas to expand the thinking for people who are listening in.
Most CRMs promise efficiency, but too often they just add complexity, more clicks, more confusion, and less time with clients. Toolkit CRM was built to change that. It's simple, intuitive, and designed specifically for financial advisors. What makes it different? Toolkit isn't just software. It's Pareto's best practices hardwired into your day-to-day process. It's the client experience engine that ensures consistency, elevates every interaction, and brings the Pareto philosophy to life in your business. If you want a CRM that actually works for you, instead of the other way around, take a look at Toolkit CRM. To learn more, visit toolkitcrm.com and schedule a no-obligation demo, and see how easy it is to bring the best practices to life in your business.
Yeah. So if we talk about, sort of priming the pump, for me, it's, I talk to an advisor that may, they're interested in making a move, and I ask a lot of questions, right? And which again, because I've been in the space, unfortunately, there's a lot of firms in our space, they've never even been in financial services, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like never even stepped foot in a office or whatever.
Right.
And so they don't necessarily know intimately the way a business runs, right? They know trailing 12 and all that stuff, because that's how they get paid, right? But they can't have an in-depth conversation with a financial advisor about their actual business. So I ask lots of questions. Ultimately, what I'm trying to figure out is, why are they making the move, and what are they trying to accomplish out of the move? So one of the questions that I ask is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I've asked that to $5 million clients, $10 million clients. What do you want to be when you grow up? if you're doing $5 million and you have a small team, do you want to be an enterprise level business? You are looking for a PE exit, whatever the topic is, which is a big topic nowadays, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to get to? What's the goal? Because we have to work backwards to understand where you should be going. Many advisors make a mistake and they just look at what's right in front of you. Right? So I race cars, right? And so your analogy of the motorcycle. So for me, it's a right seater, right? It's having a coach in the right seat as I'm driving. One of the things that they teach us in racing is you have to look ahead. You have to have your eyes up. It means you have to look beyond your immediate turning point. You have to look beyond right in front of the car, right? The whole adage, right? Where you look is where you go, right? If you look to the wall, you're going to hit the wall.
Yeah.
Right. So what they teach you is look beyond your turning points.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with a financial advisor. If you are looking at your business and you do $1 million and you're only looking at, I want to make a move because my immediate pain is whatever, my branch manager, whatever the immediate pain is, right? But you're not focusing on where you're going down the road. You're going to end up in the same situation all over again before you know it, right? I'm working with a client today, and he's made the same mistake over the years, and I call it B-sharing his business, because he's just going to the place that's going to give him the biggest check, but he's never really been happy, and he's not really grown his business, right? And I'm like, because you're B-sharing your business. So everybody knows what a B-share, right? Back in the day, right? I don't even know if they still exist anymore, but I use that analogy because you're just taking the check and you're not really putting any thought into, is the firm that you're going to going to help you take your business to a much higher level based on the types of clients that you have? And I said to him, because you keep making the same mistake. I said, my job is going to help you to try to finally not make that same mistake by understanding why you're looking to make the move, but more importantly, what you're trying to get out of this thing long term. And again, long term can be 20 years, long term can be 10 years. And then so that's sort of like priming, right? I'm trying to prime, I'm trying to get them to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it. In a perfect world, what does the new firm look like, right? What does their business look like? How do they feel about it? Friend of mine, Ed Milet, does a lot of social media stuff. He's a very successful, ultra successful individual. He talks about visualization in that you have to not just see it. So if I have my vision board here, there's the Breitling, there's another, you see a couple of Ferraris on there. He talks about you have to actually see your visions in real color. Like almost like experiencing them, like you've already experienced them, that you've already accomplished those goals. So when I ask these questions about what do you want to be when you grow up, and I'm trying to have them create this vision. They usually I've never once had someone answer that question directly, because they're just not thinking that way, right? They'll say, "Well, I'm doing $1 million. I would love to do like 2 million or 3 million." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, in 10 years, like that's not very much growth." But then I'll ask them, "Well, what does that look like?" And they don't know, right? So in the priming thing, I really try to get an advisor to see in real color what their business looks like. How many offices do you have? How many support staff do you have? What does your day look like? How many clients are you dealing with? Is there account minimums? Are you a product specialist? Not a product, but are you only doing advisory? Are you only focusing on business owners? Like, what does all of that look like? Right? Because there are different firms in our industry that can support different types of those businesses. Some firms better than others. Not good or bad, just I always say good versus best, right?
Yeah.
And so, but to your point, this one particular advisor, I think I have a higher expectation and more confidence in him than he has in himself.
Well, and this is such an important aspect of planning. It's scenario planning. Like, just thinking it through. Pros, cons, best case scenario, worst nightmares. Think it all through. It's interesting. There's a great book. You've probably heard of it, The Art of Racing in the Rain.
Yeah.
Phenomenal book. For two reasons.
Haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm going to watch it.
Movie was Hallmarkish. Okay. So the book was exceptional, in my opinion.
Okay.
But two reasons I love it. A, it was a story told through the eyes of a dog.
Yeah.
And his owner was a race car driver, of course. But what I took from that great book was the difference between dreading versus embracing external dependencies, things that are out of your control. A lot of people dread racing in the rain. His mindset was embracing, because that's where I'll win.
Yeah.
In life, some people feel pressure, other people apply pressure. It's just a really powerful mindset. It's interesting.
It's attitude shift. Max Verstappen is that guy. Max Verstappen, if it's raining, he's probably going to win.
Yeah, well, Mario Andretti, and this is a bit of a contradiction. Like he said, if you're not on the edge, you're not going fast enough. But here's
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, literally in racing, yeah, but in life, the reason why priming is so important on so many levels, like just understand unintended consequences, understand incredible opportunities that can come from what you're about to embark on, but finding the sweet spot between direction and speed. You don't have to be on the edge. Yes, you want to take action. You want to get it done, but just make sure the trajectory is what you want to do. You're not grabbing at the check, because there's anticlimax to that. And that's not, I said to an advisor not long ago, because he was so fixated on a check, and I said, just be honest with me. Are you going to sit down and tell all your clients that that's why you're moving?
Right.
Like if there's a client listening into our consultation, are you going to be proud or maybe a little embarrassed? Changed his entire mindset.
Yeah.
Because I said, I want you to be an open kitchen. I want you to be fully transparent. Why are you moving? And it's not about what you're leaving. It's what are you going to, and why is it in your best interest, your team's best interest, and your client's best interest? This is the scenario planning that comes from the priming exercise. And I'm telling you, one of the most powerful silver linings, and I've seen this, and I'm sure you have too, is when advisors realize this is where I get to reframe and rejuvenate relationships, and maybe respectfully disassociate from relationships that are not a good fit, because I'm either not going to invite them, or I'm just going to be very candid with them and let them know I'm evolving, I'm growing up market, I'm growing down my business, and it's just not a good fit going forward. There's just so many things that come out of the exercise of being the co-pilot, being in the sidecar, helping somebody really think this through.
It gets you to reframe what you're doing. And to the clients that you keep, it's a great story, because you get to say to them, I'm doing all of these different things for you.
Yes.
Right? For you. I tell advisors they have to answer yes to 3 questions in this order.
Okay.
And if they can't, they have not found the right firm yet.
Okay, good. I want to hear that.
The first one is the new firm better for their clients? Are the resources, capabilities, culture, how the firm views the client, is it better for the firm, better for the clients? Number 2, is the new firm better for their business or practice? Right. And that's little, again, resources, services, culturally, compliance, whatever those things are. Right. And number 3, is being at the new firm going to be better for them and their family? And again, for whatever reason, it could be economics, it could be culture, it could be you just don't get along with your branch manager, or the compliance department is ultra too restrictive and it's creating problems for you. You have to say yes to all 3 of those questions in that order.
Yeah.
Right. And number 3, money comes into that, right?
Right.
When I moved my practice back in 1999, I said to I knew where I wanted to go. I didn't want to look at any other firms. It was Smith Barney, ride or die kind of thing, right? But I said to the manager, because I'm not really a good negotiator, I said, listen, I'm not doing this for the money, right? I'm doing this, and I had my reasons. I said, but at my age, money's like a close second. Like, I'm doing this for number 1 reason, but money's like a close second. I'm not going to do it for free, right? But I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it for these other reasons, which were the 3 things that I just mentioned, right? And I think that advisors that they skip one of 2 of those phases, honestly, in my experience, even as a branch manager, advisors that make a move just for the money, they don't look into the services for the firm. They don't look into how's my client going to be treated there. They don't look into any of those things. Those transitions actually don't really go all that well.
No. Okay, so first of all, where I agree with you is the conversation around money is at the end. Our order is slightly different. Maybe, our framework for the order is PSP. And maybe I force the issue into the acronym because PSP is the airport for Palm Springs, where I've been many, many times. Thermal is such a great track, right?
Yeah.
But ours is
philosophical. To go there next year. So
beautiful. Well, hey, hopefully maybe we can sync up. But PSP for us is philosophical, strategic, and practical. So philosophical is it an environment philosophically that is in sync with yours? And the reason why I start there, Frank, is because I say the best way to take care of your team and your clients is to take impeccable care of yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You have to be in an environment that encourages self-actualization, the best version of you. So philosophical, strategic is, okay, let's create basically a flight plan, a listing of all the reasons why this is in your client's best interest, and leveling up them literally to the point so you can envision and engineer what it means to present it to them based on their fluid and dynamic and evolving needs.
Yeah.
So philosophical, strategic, and then practical, which includes the economic reality, but have it cascade to that. Which is great. So from a priming perspective,
I think it's the same thing. I think we're saying the same thing, right? Because philosophically, right, the firm has to philosophically be aligned with you in order to how you feel about your clients and how you believe your clients should be taken care of.
Yeah. Like where are they on alternative investments? Where are they on proprietary investments? Where are they on, is their culture so fixated on just moving the needle, or are their KPIs more panoramic? You're
look
right.
Happened. Merrill Lynch just announced that they're no longer paying advisors. They're reducing substantially the fee that advisors get paid on accounts under $500,000 now. Right? So Merrill Lynch is philosophically telling financial advisors, don't work with the up and coming wealth in the world. Right? Like don't work with smaller accounts. Middle.
Yeah.
Well, I think
they live by the rules they set, and that's fine if it works for them. But
that's
it might
philosophically
not be
right. To your point, philosophically doesn't align with, is the new firm going to be right for your clients?
Right. And for some advisors and clients, it would be right, and for others, it would not. But being unreasonable about the fit process.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's all part of priming. Okay. Excellent. Now here, I want to jump ahead and then come back to those 3. Because there's a dynamic here, Frank, and I want to really get into this with you probably offline more, but there's a dynamic because we're in the similar space of sort of co-opetition. I really do want to explore with you the collaborative synergies around how we can align. So we don't necessarily have to get into that now, but definitely offline, let's have that conversation. But prime and then execute. What are some of the essentials? And really expand the thinking here. what are the essentials around launching to get it right? Whether it's transitioning, whether it's acquiring, scaling, all of these things. Let's get into the weeds on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that I was talking with a client yesterday who's going from a W-2 structure to 1099, and we were talking about this, how much time it's going to take, et cetera. And one of the things that I advise a lot of clients on is, unless you know the actual building location you want to be in, like I've always wanted to be in that building and that's where I'm going to be and whatever, right? I don't think that building out because you have to envision what your business is going to look like on the other side, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what does your brand logo look like and represent? What does your website look like and represent? These are things, there's really two pieces. There's the sort of operational side and doing, protocol versus non-protocol and getting your client list prepared, understanding your book of business, going through, making sure that you fully are aware with what needs to happen, working with the transition team. Most firms provide a transition team, working with that transition team to go over all of the clients, not their information. You're not allowed to share information ahead of time, but going over products that you have, alternative, your alternative investments, which ones can and cannot be held at the new firm, right? SMA managers,
right?
Which clearing company are you going to be working with, right? Is it self-clearing or is it Schwab or Fidelity or whatever custody? All of those things, but understanding preparation is really key to understanding how to successfully transition, right? And advisors need to take this very seriously, and they need to allocate some time to it. It's always better if they have someone on their team that's 100% focused on it. But at the same time you're doing those things, sort of to be able to move your business cleanly. And what we're seeing today, nowadays, since most firms are using, electronic signature, most advisors that are moving are generally moving 90% of their book of business within the first 45 days, right? Yeah. Typically what I tell an advisor is by the end of 90 days post-move, you are back up and running and back to business, right? Maybe there's a couple of straggler accounts that you haven't gotten yet or whatever, but you're pretty much back to business. It's not this long, drawn out. It's going to take you 6 months, and it's very fast, and that's being conservative. I mean, I have some situations where I have a client and they move their entire book of business in less than 30 days, right? Yeah. So that's one piece. But then the other piece is preparation of your brand, ready to launch, your website, your logo. And I say your website, it's more than just like, oh, I have a website.
Yeah.
Does your website articulate who you are as a financial advisor and what your practice specialty is, right? Someone should be able to go to your website, and it's more important than ever before, and be able to tell almost immediately what you're all about, right? And I think far too many advisors don't put enough importance on the quality of that, right? Because they say, well, I get all my business comes from referrals, so, I don't need a website. I'm like, okay, well, how many referrals are you not getting? Because they got referred to you, they went online and looked you up, and they saw that your website was built in 1987, and you haven't posted anything of relevance in 2 years, right? Like, if I'm a business owner and I'm looking for an advisor that understands exit planning strategies, and you say you're a SEPA designated advisor, but you're not putting anything online, what that tells me is you're not really in the space, right? So I'm going to go work with someone that's in it every day, that's a thought leader. Like, I want the thought leader. And your website basically doesn't say any of that. And so preparation and giving some thought. So I told this advisor the other day when I wanted to start thinking about his brand and his name, right? Like, please don't use your last name as your name, no. Right? Like, please don't do that. And so what you have to do when you're in the car or you're in a quiet place, you have to think and visualize what you would be proud of. What does your brand look like and why? What is important to you? Why does it resonate? Right? Our logo for my organization is a knight chess piece. And the reason why I chose a chess piece is because it's the most disruptive chess piece on the board, right? It's not maybe the most powerful queen or whatever, right? I like playing chess. But in terms of a disruptive chess piece, that's the only piece that can go in multiple directions unilaterally, right? So it's disruptive. And that's
And it's
what
hard to anticipate that move, right?
Exactly, because there's multiple angles, right? And so that's how I envisioned my company from the very beginning is I wanted to be disruptor in this space. I wanted to be able to go in any direction, not just, well, I work for these 4 firms, so those are the firms that I'm going to show my clients, right? So there's some thought behind why. And that can take some time. And an advisor needs to think about that very seriously so that they don't, change the name. Look, on the flip side, I'll tell you that Elite Consulting Partners, if I had a chance to redo it, I don't know if I would have used Elite as the name, right? Because I see a truck going down the road and it's Elite Moving and it's Elite, water coolers and whatever. I'm like, but because I didn't know what I know now.
You're
right?
in a niche, right? You're not wide angle.
Yeah.
You're in a niche. So I think it works really well. I do like the symbolism.
It does. And eventually, my goal was I want to get my brand to be where someone just says Elite.
Okay, so hold on. You covered a lot of ground here, and I took, again, a copious notes. I've got to chime in. First of all, and I want your perspective on this, like expectation management when they segue from priming to launching and executing. And by the way, I want to hit on the messaging to clients too in a second.
Yeah.
But back to the scenario planning and getting ready. Like I say to them, like, okay, what are you hoping is going to happen? And they say, well, I'd like to think that, 80, 90% of my clients are going to come with me and the right assets and so on. And I said, okay, be a little paranoid, right? Only the paranoid survive, arguably. Yeah, but bookend that. You do this right, it'll be 110%. Okay,
Yep.
You do this right. And the opportunity to reinvent somebody's, moving away from that sort of lifestyle environment perception to not a book of business, but an actual business, that's engineered, especially to your point about having a brand within a brand. It's interesting. I don't know if you've studied this. I've studied the dentistry sector. This went back a long time ago. I walked by with a friend a dental office, and they had a sandwich board out front, and it looked weathered. And it said on there, accepting new patients. And my friend said, I mean, what do they do in there? Do they use like pliers and rum? Like, is it so brutal that they don't get any referrals and they're still chasing strangers on the sidewalk to come in? That prompted me to study, because you think about dentistry. That is the one professional service I think that is the most dreaded. And they were the first to start depersonalizing. They were the first to adopt best practices and run their business like a business, to create consistency and not be at the mercy. Could you imagine if dentists allowed their patients to just call in when you think you're ready instead of having an automated process for re-upping, right? So they were such a powerful early adopting sector. And now I translate into this financial services space. I'm spending time with advisors saying, okay, you branded yourself. You have your own personal brand with an identity, moral compass, capabilities, knowledge, expertise, all that. Okay, you branded your practice, given it a name, given it an identity. Now let's brand your process. Let's take the abstract, commoditized, transactional nature of all the little individual pieces you put together and get the client, instead of buying something, buying into something.
Right.
Buying into the process. That is huge now in terms of the unveiling after any type of transition or scale, introducing to a client, hey, we're leveling up. It also is like this incredible form of forced savings that drives enterprise value, because this is, again, intellectual property. Yeah. So, and then the last thing I want to hear is just on the launch, having the conversations, especially with the 20% of the clients who generate 80% of the business. Let's talk about some of these little ways to reemerge and reinvent and reframe, especially messaging.
I think that this is what you touched on, one of these things that I usually bet a steak dinner on this, that advisors will get more, they typically, I'm sure you guys, oh, I have all my clients' assets. I'm like, no, you don't, right? No, you don't. But if you position the move the right way, right, you can create a story for your client as to why you did what you did for their benefit, right?
Yeah.
So this one client I was working on, LPL gave me a stat a couple of months ago, and they said that after 6 months, a financial advisor has 107% of their original AUM on the books after 6 months of moving.
No kidding.
Because they get new business. I experienced it when I moved, right? I experienced clients bringing me more business because I was able to have a conversation about why I was doing it. And oh, by the way, Duncan, I know you had that account at Merrill Lynch. You never were really happy. This would be a great time. Why don't we just why don't we just consolidate that in? I'll send you the paperwork. Everything stays the same. And they're like, okay, that's what happens.
Frank, what percentage of that do you think comes from actually putting that out there versus the client just coming to their own conclusions and offering it up? Is there numbers on that, ratios?
Advisors often ask, how do I know where to focus to get the biggest lift in my business? That's exactly what the Practice Management Index, or PMI for short, was designed to answer. PMI is a diagnostic tool built by Pareto Systems to measure the strength of your practice across the 18 key business focus areas that drive growth, scalability, and enterprise value. In just 25 minutes, you'll get a clear snapshot of your strengths and blind spots, plus a roadmap to turn insights into action. Start your assessment today at paretosystems.com/PMI and take the guesswork out of your next move. The link is also in the description of this episode. For a limited time, get the breakdown report for free. Just use coupon code BDR25. That's a $99 value, which gives you access to a detailed list of action items and implementation tools. Now, back to the show.
I think it's probably, from my experience, it's roughly, I would say probably 70% of that is the client positioning it the right way, right? And 30% of the client saying, well, while you're at it, I have that 401k that I never rolled over from the company that I left 4 years ago.
Makes sense.
Right? Because your client is in the frame of mind of, now I'm doing something with my accounts, right? So they start thinking about all of the other accounts that they have all over the street, and they start saying, okay, which ones do I want to move?
Right.
It's what happens every time. Let me back that up. It's what happens when an advisor is prepared to have the conversation and tell the story the right way. Where they don't get that is where they say, hey, I'm just calling to let you know I'm not at firm X, Y, or Z. I moved to this firm. I'm going to send you some paperwork. Everything is great. Nothing's going to change in your account. Is that okay? And that's where they leave it. And that is a massive lost opportunity.
Well, that's transactional.
Massive.
That's a one-off transaction as opposed to a stream of consistent imprinting. Okay,
I grew when I transitioned my book, and this was a long time ago. I grew my book by like 22%. And at the same time, I implemented an account minimum. Because to your point at the beginning, I told this story about an increased level of service, et cetera, et cetera. And in order for me to continue to deliver a high level of service to you, Duncan, I'm actually implementing a $250,000 minimum account size, right? And it worked out really well. The clients that were way above that appreciated that. I had a couple of clients that were below that I kept. They brought more money in. And so, it's the opportunity to position yourself. The advisor that I was working on, that he's got $150 million in assets. He only does $300,000 in production. And I have more faith in him. He has one client that has like $30 million, does $4,000 a year in trades commission. That's it. And I was trying to explain to him, like, this is your opportunity to do more business with him. And he's like, well, Frank, he doesn't have any family. He doesn't have any kids. Like, there's nothing to do there. I'm like, so at minimum, he's going to give the money away to somebody. So talk about positioning, whatever the guy's name was. I'm moving to this firm because they are really strong in the philanthropic services area. And I think that I have not been able to provide you a level of service based on your needs because of the firm that I'm at. So I decided to go to XYZ firm because they are very strong in these areas. I would love for you to speak to somebody at the firm about these things to see how we can make sure that your wealth and your accumulated wealth is taken care of after you're gone. I'm like, I don't know I said to him, I don't know what kind of business you're going to get from that, but you will get more business somehow than the $4,000 in trades that he does every year. Right. And that's where preparation meets execution.
Right.
Understand your book of business, what you're trying to get accomplished, and then to execute on that when you make the move can accelerate the growth of your business, which ultimately, I get back to him, like, he kept doing B sharing his business. And so highly transaction oriented business, and he's in his late 60s. I said, the other thing you need to be thinking about is this is your opportunity to convert clients from commission to advisory.
No doubt.
Which will help you increase the valuation of your business, which will be the B share that you're looking for at some point.
And that's a deeper engaged client, and the likelihood, the probability of attracting assets that are currently outside of the process once they monetize. I mean, this is just future pacing, playing the long game, that they will come in because you are a deeper advisor, manager, planner. It just makes you more attractive. So, and Frank, your point, like, back to the framework: priming, preparation, executing, getting it right, messaging with clients, and then having that as a stepping stone to maximizing once the dust settles. Like, you're right. Advisors that find a new gear in terms of professional scarcity, activating belonging, and being more compelling to really attractive clients, creating an ideal client profile. And as you know, the advisors now don't lead with a minimum. It usually cascades down to a number, but they talk in terms of demographics, socioeconomics. Like, why is this just a good fit? It's no longer who I'm looking for, it's who I'm suited for. That panoramic ideal client profile is such a great way to go back to clients after the dust settles and says, look, I've made a decision. I'm not going to be all things to all people. I'm going to be all things to some people because I'm suited for clients that have very complex, sophisticated, dynamic needs now and in the future. And I just want to make sure that everything gets addressed. They always have the complete picture. This is so attractive. And, the maximizing piece also, like, I see so many advisors, they say, okay, I'm 5 years out, so I got to get this right, whatever transition they're making. And I say to them, I said, is it possible that if you really get this right, yeah, sure, go ahead, de-risk if you want to take a check. I get that. Or if you want to do a partial book sale as well, like whatever you want to do to de-risk, take some things off the table, that's fine. But what would it look like if the last 5 years were your best 10 years? Because you got so rejuvenated, so the liberation and restoration and order that came back to your life because you were really in a groove. What would that be like? When somebody gives themselves permission to actually imagine that, it's almost self-actualizing. It's almost like You'll see it when you believe it. If you believe you're worthy, if you believe it's possible, let's just engineer it. And I can see, I've seen advisors, actually, it's like they found a time machine. They look.
They found
3
another
years
gear.
later,
I say they
look,
found another gear.
They found another gear because they look lighter, they look healthier, they look younger because the weight. And I think advisors trivialize this sometimes. The responsibility of managing somebody else's path to financial independence can be heavy. And that's why some advisors have limiting beliefs, is because they're so fixated on risk management. They don't want to, blow up their clients, as one guy said the other day. I just want to get this right. I said, I get that, but that is undermining you in terms of your own ability to self-actualize as a business professional. I want you to give yourself permission to move to the next level of your life. This is your reason for being. We're not going to downplay your core competency. We're going to honor that. But there's some gaps in what you do that you can address. Because I'm curious, at the end of the day, back to the maximizing. Okay, here's my question after that. Advisors manage 3 things. They manage money, they manage a business, and they manage people. Of those 3, how would you say each of those 3 impact their enterprise value and impact their ability to competitor-proof clients so that through any transition, they're clients for life? If you were to break those down, a lot of advisors think that it's number 1. That's the big one.
The last one. Yeah.
Okay. So you give me your view on that.
Yeah. So what I would tell you is, if you're looking at, when advisors are thinking about maximizing their business or maximizing the exit, essentially, right?
Okay.
That's where we get into these other areas of marketing and data, right? Because it's the business side of it is I think first, because if you can have sustainable processes, automations, all of those things where your clients are in a process, that your clients are in your book of business are in a system of some sort, right? That another person,
not in people's heads, documented digitally, physically. Yeah, got it.
It's just so that somebody else can come in if you were to get hit by the proverbial bus, right? That your business continues to operate, right? Now, secondarily, you have to have people there, but I've yet to see a business where the support people were so important that without them the business would blow up, right? Because then I would say to them, then you don't have the number 1 part set up correctly, right? That's why the business side is really important. Because again, if I take over your practice and I want to bring, and maybe I don't want as much staff, I don't need the staff that you have because I already have staff, right? But if the business is going to blow up because of that, right, then I'm going to pay you less for the business.
Yeah.
Right. But if I can take over the business without you being there, without you running the money, which is the mistake advisors, we talk about M&A, like, well, I'm the best portfolio manager on the street. I'm like, good for you. You're not smart because that's actually hurting your valuation, right? Like, I get that you are proud of that, but don't get mad when the valuation is lower than you want because you're not going to be there to run the money, right? So, which is contrary to how most advisors have sort of, I'll say grown up, but grown up in the advisory space, right? It was moved to advisory because transaction business is dead, and it's moved to advisory so you can be unique and no one can replicate you versus an SMA manager or whatever, right? Which there's truth to that, but and if you're not looking at selling, then do that by all means, right? And that's a great way to go, not efficient, but it is a unique way to go, right? But if you're trying to really build a business and really grow it faster, I think you said this, which was the greatest. I'm going to steal this forever. No advisor that I know of and you know of that has gone from $1 million to $10 million because they became a better financial advisor, right? Because they learned how to run money better or got more alpha than somebody else, right? That's not how they grew their business. They grew their business because they became a better business owner and a better operator, and then a better leader for the people. And so I think that's how you have to go down those roads.
Great.
And I think that, so when I look at it that way, that's how I see.
No, you're right.
If you want to prioritize what's really important, those are the areas. That's sort of the areas that I think are the most important.
No, I agree, and it lines up beautifully. So, well, we were all over the map, but we covered a lot of ground.
There's
and
so
then
much
also,
more, so I'll have to do this again, but yeah.
Scratch the surface too. So we're bumping up on an hour. Frank, we've been doing this to, about the same amount of time, and mileage is so important. There's so many things you can't learn in a simulator.
That's true.
But
is true.
You got to get out there. So
you got to get out there and do it. And I think one of the messages that I would say to folks is, don't be afraid to. I'm not saying make a move just to make a move. That's not what I'm.
Right,
not. I do not support that. But making a move can be career changing for you in a positive way, because it empowers you to do these other things, right? It draws a line in the sand. It gives you the opportunity to draw a line in the sand to do some different things. Yeah, it puts some capital in your bank account, right? Which you can then reinvest in the business. So those are big opportunities. If done the right way, if the preparation meets execution, right? If you're just going to say, I'm making the move, I'm going to take the money, I'm going to stick in a bank account, okay, maybe it solves some personal things, but you're not going to help you grow, grow exponentially.
A lot of what we covered philosophically does also impact M&A, but we didn't address as much of that as I would have liked looking at my notes here. So that's got to probably be our next call. But, at the end of the day, based on what you're closing with there, people have to make a choice. Is this, are you sort of the shooting star? Are you fading? Are you riding off? Or are you the steady burner? Like, are you just going to keep powering up? Regardless of where you are, demography wise, all of that. It's just, I think that's a choice. That's a very important choice. And anyway, so your subject matter expertise is incredibly strong. If somebody wants to get to know you better, what would be the next step?
Yeah, they can shoot me an email, which is frank@eliteconsultingpartners.com.
Okay.
They can DM me on LinkedIn, so just Frank LaRosa. They can also go to my my Instagram page. I think we're somewhere around 270 some odd thousand followers. So just DM me at franklarosa.elite. There's all sorts of interesting things on there. Some race car stuff, some motivational stuff, some boxing stuff. I'm all about putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, because that's what makes you better at what you do.
Okay. All right. So I got to definitely embrace Instagram. I've got a crew here that is lighting a fire under me. So did you watch Canelo Crawford?
I didn't. I was unavailable. I have mixed emotions about that match.
Yeah. I didn't watch it live. I watched the replay, and I have a new level of respect for both of them.
Oh, for sure.
Canelo, just warrior, gentleman, respect, humility. Yeah. Crawford, unbelievable, patient skills.
An underdog, and knows his worth and knew his skill set, and no matter what people said, he just knew. He knew himself. He had a level of confidence that he can get it done. And Canelo, on the other hand, is just a warrior. One of my favorite fighters.
Yeah.
Not that I fight like him, but I have the same type of style as him. I've been boxing for 20 years. And so I'm 10-2. But just the way he handled the press conference, and basically Crawford was a better man. Crawford beat me. It's one of the things I love about boxing not to bring off on a tangent here, but people think it's a very challenging chess match, very hot. There's a lot of thought that's going on in there. People think they're just banging away. There's so much thought that's going on, and there's no one else accountable once the bell rings but you. Like, you have to do it. The trainer can't do it. You have to train. You have to run the miles. You have to do the bag work, all the sparring, all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, we are a family. Like, boxers are a family. No matter, even if you don't know somebody, if you're at the gym and you come from different walks of life and different, socioeconomic worlds, we are a family because we all love the same sport for the same reason. And you go in there with somebody, you're banging around with them and you're taking blows and all that. And at the end of it, you come out of it and you're like, man, you hit me with that left hook and that was amazing. And, and, oh yeah, I crushed you with that right hand. And, it's all done in love and sport. And there's some that are angry, but ultimately, if you go behind the scenes, there's all respect because it takes a lot to get in there with somebody and bang away. And that's a unique personality, which is sort of why I love the sport so much and why I love racing too. But yeah.
Anyway. Well, me too. So, and back to the respect, Max called a great fight and the referee, impeccable, didn't overmanage.
Yep.
Perfectly involved, very respectful. Didn't even wear gloves, which just pure.
Yeah, But let them fight. Let them fight. They're adults. They know what they're doing. Let them fight.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Well, we're definitely got to get back together. But so again, Frank at eliteconsultingpartners.com.
Yep.
You're on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn, and then, just Frank LaRosa, and my Instagram account is franklarosa.elite, ELITE.
Okay, beautiful. I'll look for you when I get that fired up.
Awesome.
Crew is nagging me here, so I'm on it soon.
Awesome.
Great job. Next conversation's got to be around the M&A and the scaling up and the intellectual property piece. I love that too. So excellent job. Great chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Always On with Duncan MacPherson, where our objective is to enable professionals to always be working on their business and on themselves. Want to learn more about Duncan and his team? Visit ParetoSystems.com. Don't forget to click the follow button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the hosts and/or guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Pareto Systems. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.